budget meeting. We're coming out of recess. You're gonna let me share the panelists so I can share my screen.
Since you asked.
Usually something pops up and I can share. There. There. All right. All commissioners are present. Commissioner Korn is on line. And so one of the things that we're doing a little bit different is, let's see, go through so many things. It's not right. It's on the back, so I guess that'll be good enough. All right, so Bonner County budget team is inclusive of Bonner County Board of Commissioners. They make the voting decision, but our budget has come together through our directors of our different departments and our elected officials. Our county clerk is charged with presenting that to our board. We did one of the things that we did a lot different. Let me not skip. Budget process allows us, this is our timeline of how we have to go through our budget. We actually started a few weeks earlier than we were required to, because we knew we wanted to do a little bit more detail on our actual budget. One of the things that I wanted to explain is what all of the people in our county budget process had to submit to us, which was a wealth of information. So they had to do itemized estimates of revenue, actual revenues from sources other than property taxes, actual expenditures to date as of April 1st, and actual expenditures from previous 2 years to allow us to have a good view of what it was that they were going to be asking for the next fiscal year. It's important for us to take a look at our growth. Bonner County is growing significantly. And so when you look at our increase, 2.12% over the year is quite a big increase. One of the things that is impacting our infrastructure is our growth. I want to pinpoint a couple of things about our growth. When you look at our trajectory, we are going to continue to grow in Bonner County, but one of the big metrics that we're growing with is showing the population based on age. When you look at our age groups, we are the 50 and older population is where our huge growth is, which increases the need of that infrastructure. Earlier today, one of the things I did do was I invited all of our state representatives to come to our budget meeting. Representative Souter did participate in this morning's meeting, and we got an opportunity to have some discussion about our metrics and the impact and how do we address those. And his information was the same, similar about the older population moving into Bonner County, which increases the strain on our infrastructure. And that's important for us as a county to understand and track that. One of the things you'll hear from our clerk and our board is that one of the biggest changes in our budget is the cost of staffing. And so when you look at what our income levels are in Bonner County and the cost of living, you're going to see how we tried to address our increase based on what the data shows in terms of average income. $39,090 is the average income for single. But when you're looking at what their recommendation is for a family, it's actually over $80,000 in a year. Fun fact that I said earlier was that the Board of County Commissioners, it can order any elected official or department head failing to submit their budget information to pay a penalty of $10 to $50. This has never happened to Bonner County, so good job and thank you to all of our directors and elected officials who got the information to us. There was a lot more requested this go round, which was a lot of extra work for people.
I think inflation hasn't caught up to that number.
Well, there's no state representative here to let us get more money, but we can ask for that one. Our next item is our budget pain points. Ongoing supplemental requests are above our allocations. We can't change what we're getting. It's still that 3%. And so one of the things I want us to hear is what are people asking for that the board just couldn't fund, so that as we're going through our budgets that we know there's still outstanding things that the departments reasonably reflected that they needed, but that we just weren't able to fund this go round. We did a very good job as this board focusing on our statutory obligations and ensuring that we micromanage as much as possible the lines. The county clerk did review all of our foregone, so you're going to see that the county took the remaining foregone and our ambulance district is also taking foregone. Statutory requirements, you're gonna see a difference this go round. I mentioned that in our last budget cycle, the Board of Commissioners had voted to give money to things that were not statutorily required. Our Board of Commissioners did not do that. So we were sticking to what is our obligation of your tax money. And I think that for me, that's a good move. That was one of my points of contentions of the last budget is feeling like I didn't have a right to allocate money outside of what the statute tells me to allocate the money for. One of the things that the BOCC did differently, and it wasn't just us, it was the organization accepting the need for the change, was rejecting the comment that this is how we've always done it. Rejecting the idea that I just need the money that I had last year. We went through a lot more in terms of workshops and a lot more line by line. We increased documentation, and thank you to everybody that just agreed and submitted that information to justify the dollars that they were requesting. What this board didn't do is you didn't get a guaranteed amount of money in your budget. It needed to be shown. And then our board focused on what we heard from our community, which in terms of staffing had to do with the cost of living in Sandpoint and the rates of pay. So that thank you to everybody that helped facilitate that. And so with that, what I'll do is we'll turn it over and see if Commissioner Horn or Donkey have anything to add, and then we'll send it over to our clerk.
I'm pausing in case Commissioner Horn is available and wants to offer, but I know he also may be tied up at the fire meeting, so. If I don't hear anything in a moment.
We'll give him a moment of
He
silence.
left this in.
I did, okay.
He's left the building, could not give him.
I will quickly reiterate what I did this morning, and that is I really value and appreciate everyone's participation. I think the process, the path we're moving down is going to be a foundation to build on for the future for greater clarity and transparency of the budget process, both in the development, but then the expenditures later on. The notes and information that's going into our system units is, I think, going to become invaluable to reference, so we understand how decisions were made and why. And then also kind of what Commissioner Williams was talking about, the concept of not just relying on the way we've done it in the past. One of the things I mentioned this morning that I think is critical is the county has avoided a lot of times planning for future costs that we can anticipate because they're difficult. And that's not a responsible way to budget. So we have to recognize when those costs are coming. And we have to start planning in advance and build toward those, develop sinking funds, capital improvement accounts and things where we can manage our distribution of funds to build to the expenditure when it's time. And so we shouldn't treat items that we can anticipate as emergencies. We should plan for them. Real emergencies will happen and do happen. And so that's a different budget. So I appreciate everyone's participation in helping us with planning in a more responsible way for the financial future of the county. And not to say that we've been able to capture all of those needs, but we've started capturing the needs that have been identified to the best of our ability right now. There will still be additional future capital outlays that are going to have to be planned for. But with the information that we had during this budget cycle, I think we have a good start. So I just want to keep building on that foundation.
Clerk Rosedale.
Thank you. Everybody here has heard what we've said before, and everybody on Zoom has heard what we've said before. So this is going to be mainly for people out in YouTube land. If you look at the ad in the paper, and I don't know if you have it all handy out there, but basically what we had is we have to, by law, show the prior 2 years budget and actuals, the current year budget and current actual, and then the prospective proposed budget. This is a culmination of, as Commissioner Williams said, all the detailed work we've been doing. We've been going through line items that we haven't really gone through in detail quite so much. Like our travel budget now, we have to list out every single trip we plan to take, where it's to, get a good approximation on the airfare, good approximation on the hotels, all of that. So normally we've had a round number, but we pared that down to be very precise. So I've done that. I want to thank all the elected officials and department heads and senior staff for grinding that out with everybody. On the big, okay, you can't see it there, on the bottom left-hand side. There's basically a box area, and it's basically a summary of what we're doing here. Our property tax levy is $37,083,276. That is our statutory limit. Above and beyond that, the statute allows us to do what's called a judgment levy. We had a situation with the state tax commission misassessing the Vista utilities throughout the entire state of Idaho. Only one county came unscathed. So what ended up happening is we had to pay $284,527 out of our funds, and that is to refund our bank account that way. It's not in the budget to spend, it's just to make us whole. That's what that is. So the total proposed taxes are those together, 367,803. We also have a cash balance forward of almost $10 million. Those are funds that we haven't spent in the past, that we have in our fund balances throughout all of our different funds. We are rolling those forward so that we can operate as leanly as we're trying to do within our levy limit. And we have grants. It's a rotating 22.9 million. It's our rotating fund where we have to pay out, comes back in. Our comptroller can talk more about that later on. And then under other, we have 28,071,512. That comes from fees, licensing fees, reporting fees, plan check fees, all different kinds of fees, solid waste fees, and whatnot. And together that gives us our actual spending budget of $78,048,046.
Let me pause.
Yes.
This is where,
Yeah, this is where.
he
Yes.
gets this
Could
comment
you go to
down.
the lower left
Lower left
corner?
corner.
Yes, lower left. So the difference there is revenues. That is a revenue line, estimated revenue. In that revenues, we add in the $284,527 in the judgment list. We're not spending that. That's not part of our actual.
Just an offset.
Yep,
Okay.
yep. For those of you out there that weren't here the first meeting,
So you want
That was-
that on your motion to be the left corner then,
it was on the left corner. The budget.
the motion? So
Let me read the motion.
Sure.
your motion has the three, that's I think what. Commissioner
I see
referencing
what
is
you're
your motion has the $70,332. It's the number in your left corner, not.
That is what our levy is.
Okay, so
So
we
we
do
have
have
to,
to.
it has to be published by law, and that'll be.
I think that's the question.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
Yes.
this morning, so the estimated revenue total budget is what.
Correct.
Motion for as compared to the expenditure.
Yes.
Correct, because we need to capture the judgment levy value that's gonna
Right.
offset.
Exactly,
Those
and by
costs.
law,
Okay.
we can't increase the levy rate after.
So that's where,
Thank you.
because I.
That's why I heard two
I remember
numbers.
he said he heard a number this morning, and so we wanted to
Yeah.
clarify that.
Perfect.
And so we also, I think, wanted to make a comment before we go over to the comptroller of thanking our new comptroller because of taking over. And then jumping right into all the work that is to help build a budget and the attentiveness that was given to each department. As we worked through our budget, because it was not only a new comptroller, but a new expectation from the board and as to how we approach our budget. So thank you.
I agree.
Yes.
All right.
Okay. So I'm gonna run through this. This is kind of an overview of, I guess, kind of the things that have changed from last year. So this is laying out exactly how much we anticipate receiving from the tax levy and how that was kind of broken down. So we had $534,600 increase in our budget capacity based on new construction. The statutory increase was $1,072,309, and then we have the utility judgment of $284,527. So that was how much our budget capacity could increase over last year. I think that the county has done a really good job. As a whole, I appreciate all of the departments working with me to make sure that your needs were addressed, and hopefully this next year is super successful in that we stay on budget and all the good things. So fiscal year 2026, the proposed budget reflects Bonner County's continued commitment to responsible fiscal management, workforce investment, and transparent allocation of taxpayer funds. This year's plan balances the need to maintain essential services, invest in our employees, and address known operational priorities. And planning for long-term capital expenses, all while reducing costs in several departments. So, as the commissioners mentioned, the biggest increase in our budget is for personnel. So if people have been in their positions for a year or more, they will be receiving a step increase as of October 1. And then all positions will be receiving $1 an hour increase for COLA.
I want to inject a clarification. We did performance reviews this time, so it wasn't a guarantee. It was based on performance, which was also a new thing that we were starting as a foundation of expecting people to turn those. Some departments were already really good at doing that. Some departments hadn't done it in a long time because the board hadn't had that as an expectation, but that was what we used to justify everyone making those adjustments.
Yes, so this graph is a pretty good visual representation of the changes that departments have made to reduce spending. So this does not include personnel cost. This is their B and C budgets. But as we run down this list, you can see the funds that have had decreases and the funds that have had increases. And overall, the grand total is a slight decrease in discretionary spending. And by discretionary, I really mean operational spending. To clarify. Some of the key increases, there were several departments that saw increases. The clerk's office, that was mostly driven by the new software packages. One, to create the budget book, which we should have out to the public by the end of the year. And the GASB required lease and subscription tracking software. Facilities took on additional responsibilities and new buildings. Emergency management has some big anticipated vehicle repairs this year. We increased statutory reserve to the maximum allowed because we know that there are always things that maybe didn't have enough information on when we created the budget. Airports, drug court, they both had increases. Airports due to their anticipated grants that they have put in for and are on the docket to be approved. The county has a share of those costs for those big projects, so we did an increase there. Drug court went up a little bit based on case volume. The commissioners did increase the historical society's contribution with the caveat that it be only used for preservation of their current exhibits. And then the Justice Fund, Planning, Solid Waste, Tort, Snow Groomers, Veterans, and Waterways all saw increases as well. And then all of these departments listed here below, so elections, treasurers, purchasing and commissioners, technology, motor vehicles and engineering, road and bridge, district court, fairgrounds, 911 fees or funds, the health district and revaluation all had decreases in their operational spending. We did have a couple of small reallocations. We moved some money from the commissioner's budget to HR for employee recognition programs. And then we had a shift from part-time staff to contracted services. So in conclusion, the FY26 budget strategically invest in essential services and county employees while making targeted reductions in discretionary spending where possible. The result is a balanced approach that ensures Bonner County can meet current needs, prepare for future obligations, and maintain fiscal stability. And these are some graphs that people that have followed us for years are used to seeing. So this is kind of the year-over-year changes. The light green is our current fiscal year, and the darker green is the proposed source of funds. Yep. This is revenue, yeah. And then this would be the expenditures. And the same kind of thing. Green is our current fiscal year. And the blue is the proposed budget for next fiscal year based on the funds. This is the one everyone likes, the pie chart. Let's see if I can. So this kind of gives you a general overview by fund of how we're spending the money, and as always, the justice fund takes up the biggest piece of that pie, but. Road and bridge, solid waste, and the general fund are those other wider wedges. That's good for us.
Public comment before acting motion.
I have a public comment when I finish the second part. Yes. So some of the highlights for budget, a lot of people have asked questions of where are we with our ambulance district. So we anticipate that we will do another TAN. Overall, during 2025, you saw a lot of reduction on the part of the ambulance district. So there was a lot of focused interaction between the clerk's office, the board, and the ambulance district to help us end in a way that actually looks like what we started. So it's anticipated that we'll end this fiscal year at about $800,000. That's where we started this fiscal year, but this fiscal year was an injection of county funds versus this end is actually going to reflect changes and the positive impact of those changes on the ambulance district. One of the things that when we focused on statutory obligations, one of the things that the board looked at was when it came to the Historical Society, they had previously been given a dollar amount of $20,000. It's just been the same. They brought forward, they originally came to us with a request for funds, and we wanted more actual information before we reviewed what their request was. And so when we increased it by the additional 20, they brought forward specifically some key issues that would impact the preservation of their exhibits, to include an issue with the roof and some, I want to say it was air conditioning. And that was one where the board wanted to make sure we addressed that by giving that disclaimer that that's what the funds from the county need to be used for, because the statutory requirement doesn't go beyond that, but there are other things the Historical Society would be responsible for on their end, but our county dollars are responsible for that preservation. So to balance the two, to help them meet that need, but to ensure that our funds were used appropriately, that's what the board decided to do. One of the reasons that we increased the contingency fund to the maximum is because we are recognizing that we have to address a review of a lot of things in our county. And we're going to be coming into the new fiscal year with some litigation that's following us. And we're trying to do, as Commissioner Donkey said, we're trying to prepare. So it's a lot of meetings. I made the comment about capital reserve accounts and identifying what projects we have that we need to be actually planning and addressing for before they become an emergency for the county. This is a way of addressing that. One of the other things that we did with this was some people brought forward requests for money that we were not prepared to give them the money, but we kind of knocked the money back saying we have it available if we need to, but we didn't actually want to put it in the budgets on some of them. But it was a way of showing we're prepared in case it went from a want to a need. And in order to address the validity of want versus need on some of them, that was our decision on the contingency fund. When you look at the overall increase in personnel, the 2% is actually not that high, but it does, because of the size of the organization, reflect a big jump in our budget. Part of that goal is also to address the need to bring our services back into our county. One of those areas that comes through is litigation. We outsource some of our litigation to third parties. When we do that, we're writing a check versus using the prosecutor's office. This is right about now what happened last time. And so that's part of what we're trying to address. And so I wanted to make sure we kind of left a summary of things that I mentioned that people asked for, but we didn't fund, still need to be addressed in our community. And so for road and bridge, a big issue is mag chloride has one vendor, so that competition of cost is not going to exist. And so I'm anticipating the concerns from community about roads and mag chloride, but will we be able to afford it at the same rate? That's an unknown. So just know that one. I put technology personnel there as well, because as AI comes, once you get technology, we're already behind because they're already working on something else. That's something that the board is going to have to address as well. Emergency personnel. I want to give a lot of kudos to all of our personnel with recognition that a lot of people are mentioning, especially when it comes to EMS, kind of the retention and the longevity within Bonner County. They're looking to see us address that. But there are budget constraints that come with that because this is an ambulance district, for example. It's not part of the county, so we're not going to be able to inject county funds into the ambulance district, which is why we did so much focused work, which is a Herculean effort in 1 year to get to where we are with the ambulance district. So thank you to everybody that participated. We have litigation that is going to follow Bonner County into the next fiscal year, which is inclusive of federal cases that can cost a little bit more. Sheriff has identified some items that he feels are on the need to update and repair. He identifies replacement of 911 dispatch. He gives an estimated cost of 3 to 4 million. Additional storage for records at 400,000 with a jail replacement. That doesn't mean this stuff is getting done. It means these are things people are asking for that are big ticket items that we did not fund. So it qualifies as saying we need to tell you it's been asked for, but we did not budget for it because it's above what our abilities are as a county. On our next, when we're done with this, we are going to go right into how do we plan for the next budget, because part of the need to create these funds requires us to be proactive. And so one of the things that is going to benefit us, the new software change in the clerk's office will allow us to present to the community and to our staff a better budget process, but it will help us also with tracking and financing and meeting our goal of having a government finance office of accounting format that we can rely on. We next go around requesting all of the departments to show what percentage of their budget is the statutory percentage, because that's something that a lot of people want to know is how much of this is what we're required to do versus what we want to do, because when we're looking at budget cuts, it would land in the what do you want to do version. We're going to have the continued focus on what are the county obligations, reducing and mitigating leakage, especially when it comes to litigation. Every fiscal year, we seem to start our budget year paying out a settlement. This one we started at close to a little over $400,000 out of our budget, which means somebody's item didn't get funded because we spent money. And so we're trying to do a good job of managing that. Increasing director and elected involvement in the budget process. And then a big one for Bonner County is self-insured is not, it is insurance, but it requires a greater obligation on the county to administer self-insurance, not just by paying claims, but also mitigation of claims. So we have to start building a self-insured program, mitigating some of the leakage that comes from our the way in which we communicate, but also how do we identify when we do need outside legal? How do we make sure that we're getting from outside legal what we need as a county? And increasing the utilization of the prosecutor's office, because we've already paid that. Every time we go outside, that's a bill that we have to pay that we're not in control of, and we can't anticipate those costs. One of the things that I'm working on with risk is developing a system by which we're giving that valuation of these cases over to the clerk's office so we can accurately reflect what the impact to our budget is going to be. So that's and then just ending on, these are the people that mess with all of the money. And thank you to everybody, because it's a huge amount. And for a lot of people, it was a lot of adjustment on all of the directors and to put together their budget in a different way than they're used to. And some people had to come multiple times with us saying, not enough information for that amount of money. One of the things, are you looking for your picture up there? Director Goodell, I think, did I miss you? You're looking like this. One of the things that we did was if you didn't fill a position as we're coming into budget, you didn't get full on coverage in the budget, and that's following finance principles. Some people's budgets had positions in them that have been sitting there for years and they haven't been filled. And instead of giving that money, you're going to see us make a change over this next fiscal year, which that it's not going, the FTE will be in the control, but not the actual funds. We're going to manage that differently to address moving money around. So with that, Commissioner Corn is back. Let's open up for public comment. Any comment online? Susan Handler. Name and county residence.
I just wanted to thank everybody for the process. I know it was long and arduous, and in the beginning, it was almost like dental work as a citizen watching it, but everybody came together and it really had great successes throughout it. I wanted to thank a couple people, specifically, of course, commissioners. Jessica is an angel. She has worked through this, and we've all watched her diligently. Veronica is great support for you and communication to the public, as well as Mr. Rosedale. He has communicated with me several times in regards to different issues I had and raised. And I just wanted to thank everybody for the process.
I'm going to confirm for the record that that's Susan Glasso, Bonner County resident.
I am so sorry. Yes, I'm
Okay.
Suzanne Glass from Bonner
No,
County.
you're good. Anyone else online? All right, in the room, anybody with a comment? And not about the pictures, because we know some people need to update their pictures. I'll do my best. All right, okay, with that, we're gonna do some technical support here real quick. Actually, you did update your picture, it's just not on the left.
Yes. Commissioner Corn should use the short. He didn't have good reception in the building. We'll step outside.
All right, do you want to make a comment while he comes out?
Just to thank everyone again, do appreciate the back and forth conversations we had throughout the process. I got to learn a lot about some of the history behind some of the department's budget line items. And that's extremely valuable. And again, I think it's great that we're not afraid to ask questions and look for the answers, because we should be able to make really good data-driven decisions. If we don't have good data, then we can't justify spending funds. So I think this is a great process. And again, I just thank you all for your participation and patience with us. Because like you said, some departments and some line items required multiple reviews for us to get all the necessary data, to have a high level of confidence, but we were able to achieve that. So I consider that a success.
Is he gonna give me a sign?
Commissioner Corn, if you're getting good enough signal to hear us and participate, if you want to unmute your mic, we'll be able to tell you're ready to go, or raise your hand.
I'm gonna pause because he's putting his glasses on.
Commissioner Williams, he says he'll be available around 6:45 to vote. If you can take a recess.
I'm not gonna take a recess before you, yeah. That's not a.
He can text us.
No, he cannot text over it.
All right. Good.
So at this time, we will entertain a motion regarding the budget.
You want to do 10 minutes?
No, because these people are employees and they're here. Commissioner Corn chose to do that meeting instead, so. You can call him yesterday.
Based on the information before us, I move to approve resolution 25-52, adopting the Bonner County budget for fiscal year 2026 in the amount of $78,332,573.
I will second the motion. Any comment from the public on the motion on the table? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Williams?
Yes,
Commissioner Donkey?
Yes.
you still have to call the third one.
Commissioner Corn?
All right, nothing.
He's off mute.
Commissioner Corn. Commissioner Corn, your name was called for the vote on the budget.
Yeah,
Have bad reception.
Commissioner, could you step to a different area and try again for the vote?
Hello? Hello?
Yes,
Yes.
cast your
Can you
vote
hear me?
before you lose reception.
Yes,
All right, motion passes.
yes.
We can hear you.
It is 6:36 and this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, Commissioner.